simple additional expense of a few senators, one governor or a few people is not justification to permanently commit injustice to these members of Kenya.
Yes.
You cannot justify it that way, because there are already counties that on their own source of revenue are not sustainable. Actually, 85% of the current counties in Kenya on their own source revenue cannot sustain themselves. So if we are already supporting the others, we cannot deny these other guys. Yes, either we apply the same rules to everybody or we don't. So the issue of cost does not arise. It will be the same 15% being prorated between the old and the new counties. I hope that is the balance. There is another myth that when we create new counties, we will promote ethnic balkanization. And as I said, there is a Latin maxim, e pluribus unum. Out of many, one. Our constitution recognizes our diversity. It pronounces itself very elaborately. It encourages communities to manage their own affairs, require provisions of proximate and easily accessible public services, and promote decentralization. There is no ethnic angle to this quest. We just want fairness, justice, and an end to discrimination. Exactly. Yes, that is all we want.
Karoli, sorry.
There are two other additional minor myths. One, that we are promoting this so that each one of us here could go back and become governors. I just throw it back to you. This process you are stewarding here is creating certain public offices. I do not want to accuse any of you for being here to create a position that you will occupy later. I don't think that is the case. If it doesn't apply to you, it should not apply to us.
Yes.
Yes? Are we together? And then there is the other one, that the new counties will promote corruption. You hear that myth. Yeah? If that is the case, then we should do away with all the counties. We should even do away with the national government. We should even do away with the police service, because they are ranked as the most corrupt. But we've never said we are going to stop having the country Kenya or a national government because of corruption. The challenge there is how to address cases of corruption. It is not how to commit injustice on people because others have been committing corruption. No, that does not apply. So finally, honorable members, we therefore wish to request this committee to include in its report to the National Assembly a recommendation for the establishment of an independent commission by Parliament under Article 188 of the Constitution of Kenya to review and alter the boundaries of the affected counties by creating the new counties of Kuria, Suba, Teso, Mount Elgon, Ijara, Mwingi, Nakuru West, East Pokot, Wajir South, and Gucha. Thank you very much.
Before you conclude, Honorable Karoli,
yes.
Before you conclude,
yes,
and you can see our sympathies for your case.
Yes.
But then, could you simply just comment on the matter of jurisdiction, insofar as this committee is concerned, vis-a-vis the issue you are canvassing? And
could I also request, I see on page 15, you've mentioned 10 counties, page 15 of your document. You've mentioned 10 counties, yet you're talking about 11.
Yes.
But you've named 10. Which is the 11th?
Nyambene.
Oh, Nyambene in Meru.
Yes. And let me just clarify that point, Honorable Chair. The first 10, the process of initiating this review is by way of collecting a minimum of 60. Yes. 60 signatures. 50 signatures. Now, all the 10, except Nyambene, we have already collected those signatures. Okay. We have already initiated that process in Parliament. Yes.
Well,
we have a proposed bill to that effect. So each of the counties already has the support of not less than 50 members.
Okay.
Now, for Nyambene, they are still in that process. Yeah.
Honorable Chariot is coming in with a question, Honorable Karoli.
But let me answer you first, Chair.
No, just note down. Just note down, please.
Okay.
As Honorable Chariot comes in, yes, please also comment on the county boundaries bill, which is currently pending before the Senate. It might address the issue of the independent commission you are alluding to. Just note down.
Okay. County boundaries bill.
Senator Chariot.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the members that have found time to come and present before us. I am sympathetic to your cause as well, and I appreciate what you're speaking to. But I am cautiously optimistic about your request to us because of something that I wish you to address us, and maybe you help us appreciate and see how we can navigate it. The crux of the matter is that the people that you represent feel marginalized in the counties where they presently exist, and that the objects of devolution haven't been achieved to them. In fact, to use the words of one of the presenters who came here yesterday, making a case for Mwingi County, he said devolution has been taken captive at county headquarters and it doesn't reach the people. Yet that is what you are advocating for. However, and this is something I want either you, Karoli, or the members that you're with to address us. You have given us one way that this can be solved. Create for us additional counties where we can self-govern and our people can enjoy devolution like the rest of the country. I just want to ask, is there the slightest of chance that there is another way we can achieve your objectives without necessarily creating additional counties? Why do I ask so? I ask so because seated where you are, yesterday was Council of Governors. And we took them to task because as it is today, 47 out of 47, 100% of our counties are spending in excess of 80% of the devolved funds on recurrent. Only 20% is going to development. Therefore, there is a risk that even as you create further counties, you may not necessarily achieve the purpose of your intention, because basically what you're doing, you're creating another line of 80% recurrent expenditure. So is there a way, Mheshimiwa Karoli and your team, that what you're pleading can be achieved without necessarily having to create extra counties? Just a question that I'd wish you to address. And why do I say so? My last point is because, and I want to use Trans Nzoia as an example. Last week, we listened to elders from Mount Elgon and Sabaot. They came to us, presented just the way you're presented. Yesterday in the afternoon, we listened to another team that called themselves Trans Nzoia stakeholders. And they said, these people haven't come to us for us to resolve our issues internally before coming to you. Why do they want a share of our county to be given away? And actually you've mentioned it, because you've said, don't think about it in terms of cost, because the cost of running these counties will be gotten from already the share that is allocated to these specific counties. Therefore, people feel the majoritarian thinking in the counties where you're coming from can easily gang up and come before us tomorrow and say, why do you want to take away a portion of what has been given to us on account of certain people being dissatisfied? So I'm just using the case of Trans Nzoia that played out before us, and probably if people watch you today, then tomorrow we can have the other side of Homa Bay, the other side of Migori, Kisii, coming to us and saying, why do you want to take away other resources? Hence my question, that while what you're proposing to us makes sense to me, that we can create additional counties, is this the only way through which we can entrench this concept of what you're calling further devolution, or there is another way? I'd wish to be assisted. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I have a different idea, but I'm totally in agreement with the creation of new counties as a person. Because actually, I'm one of those who is affected, and the panel here can attest to that. My mother comes from Mount Elgon, and that is a team that has really been affected. But the idea of creation of new counties without a referendum, I really want to understand that clearly. Because you've tried to give us structures, and you've also tried to give us sub-articles, but still, The structure of devolution is one national government and it has 47 governments, county governments. Creating additional counties would change the structure and thus require a referendum. I want you to look at that. And maybe as I'll be finishing, I would also propose that we will allow our technical teams to look at that, what Karoli has given us in those sub-articles 255 and 188. Because given the text of that, or the narrative of 255, it's actually not possible to create counties without a referendum. I want you to make me understand that a little bit better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable Senator Omar.
Okay, asante.
The very last, I suppose.
Mheshimiwa Karoli and team, I always identify quite enormously with minorities and minority rights. After all, in Kenya, I am also a minority. But I want to be persuaded that to redress a minority systemic or endemic marginalization is a function of only appointing 1 or 2 members from that community or allocating an administrative advantage where 1 or 2 people are better placed competitively to raise to the echelons of those leaderships. I will not mention names, but if you look at communities hitherto, which have said they have been marginalized, you can count 1 or 2 people who have, in successive administrations, served in very high leadership positions, and some of them are actually now bequeathing that leadership to their own sons and daughters or to their family members. So you have this marginalization you have talked about has never been cured. What happens is you just actually empower 1 or 2 people to further become lords over their own territory or their people under the guise of fighting marginalization. So that's why you can see repeatedly, Chairman, I've asked this question: how does giving Hassan Omar or Amina Mnyazi a membership in a commission as a standalone without a program of inclusivity cure marginalization? We have been marginalized for 60 years, where once in a while you get a CS hapa, you get a PS pale, you get a CDF pale, munapata sijui commissioner pale, munapata. It has not cured marginalization. So we need to, as a country, to have a conversation rather than having these very ruthless competition of power based on ethnic engineering, to look for a programmatic way that the Endorois, the Suba, the new tribe in Kenya, what is it called? The Pemba, the Jamus, Canadians in Homa Bay, can be integrated in all spheres of national life. So what we need to do as we even talk about our counties and the creation of new administrative boundaries, because if you create a county for me right now, there's very few people who can beat me where I come from. You know what I mean? Some like you, some of you have comparative advantage. That's the truth of the matter. When you get into a political seat, acquire a bit of facilities and capacity and resources, you become more competitive politically. Today, if you told me at the advent of devolution, 2013, to have those 14 regions, I will be thinking, 14 regions. If you told me today to merge 3-4 counties, I'm a little more confident that you merge them and I will still be in that race and probably afford it. So these kind of things, it gives you, so what you then do, you are enhancing a set of individuals, a handful. I can talk from Independence Kenya, in the minority communities of marginalized, it's been the same people. So what I'm asking, is there a way programmatically beyond administrative boundaries that we can be able to enhance our participation in national life and politics?
Thank you.
Yeah. We can go on now? Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. In no particular order in answering the 5 questions, I absolutely agree with Senator Omar. Tokenism does not cure marginalization or discrimination. It does not, by putting somebody here or there. Actually, the way marginalization is normally about political representation and equitable share of resources. And these are issues that are addressed, if you look at the history of mankind, by organizing the distribution of those resources closer to the people. Whether you go to Switzerland, you go to America, wherever you go, they create these other units instead of having a centralized system of government. So the cure to this marginalization, I absolutely agree with you, is to create new counties or to create new other administrative units for central government to deal with that systemic issue. You will not solve it by appointing somebody to a position in central government. I absolutely agree with you. And that is what we are trying to address here.
Well said.
Yes. And then you see, Senator Cheriot has asked whether there are alternatives to creating new counties. The point is, this discrimination is both is historical, but also post-2010 constitution. There are two regions that I would like to flag out, Nyanza and Western Kenya. If you look at the way Nyanza and Western Kenya have been treated over the years, even before 2010 constitution, in terms of distribution of administrative units, what we used to call districts, and creation of constituencies, they've been shortchanged to a very large extent. To a very large extent. You can see Western Kenya is actually asking for 2 new counties. Yes? And Nyanza is also asking for 2 new counties. That were actually in the original 74. 3. That were 3. That were in the original 74. Yeah. And there's been a lot of historical injustice to those 2 regions, whether it's constituencies, or it is admin units, or it is counties. It is all about representation, which goes down with sharing of resources. Actually, the quest that you see the Kuria people ask, the Suba people and the Gucha people, is to address the systemic discrimination against Nyanza in terms of those units, which has been historical for a very long time, over 50 years. It is not about those two. It's only that those are the 3 areas that can clearly fit in the description. So I think the alternative would not be new constituencies, if that was the idea. New constituencies would just be maybe to again address certain issues where geography or other difficulties, like the constituencies like Wajir, where you and Marsabit, where you can go for hundreds of kilometers before you see any government service. You know, those are the kind of issues. But we would not think of another alternative other than creating the counties. That is what we are seeing. Now, on the county boundaries bill, I will leave that to my colleague, Honorable Pukose. But before then, we have 2 other issues. Referendum, I want to deal with it last, because, Chair, you may allow me now to read the Constitution, so we all understand it.
Well, less than 5 minutes to wind.
Jurisdiction of NADOC. Jurisdiction of NADOC, NADCO, you have something called governance issues, including promotion of national unity and inclusivity. That is your mandate. And as a good lawyer, I will tell you, any instrument appointing anybody, there is always the omnibus clause. Anything that appertains or is closely affiliated or connected.
Well addressed.
You have jurisdiction.
Yes.
Yes. The final one, so that there's clarity, I want us to start with Article 188, please, if we have our constitutions. If you just look at Article 188, 1, that is page 120 of the Constitution. I don't know which version you have. 188, alteration, boundaries of counties. 188.1, boundaries of counties may be altered only by a resolution recommended by an independent commission set up for that purpose by Parliament. Are we together? And it is passed by 2/3 in both National Assembly and in the Senate. Then the boundaries of a county may be altered to take into account, these are the parameters you use, the 7 parameters. Population density and demographic trends. Yes? Physical and human infrastructure. Historical and cultural ties. The cost of administration. The views of the communities affected. The objects of devolution of government and geographical features. You don't have to satisfy all the 7. 1 is enough. 1 is enough. under our constitution. One is enough. Now, let us jump to Article 174 of the Constitution. Yeah, let us start with 174. The objects of devolution. I want us to understand this very well, Honorable Wamilianga. Objects of devolution, we need to understand them. The objects of devolution of government are: 1, promote democratic and accountable exercise of power. To foster national unity by recognizing diversity. Yes? To give powers of self-governance to the people and enhance the participation of the people in the exercise of the powers of the state and in making decisions affecting them. To recognize the right of communities to manage their own affairs and to further their development. Welcome, Your Excellency. To protect and promote the interests and rights of minorities and marginalized communities. To promote social and economic development and the provision of proximate, easily accessible services throughout Kenya. Yes. To ensure equitable sharing of national and local resources throughout Kenya. Yes. To facilitate the decentralization of state organs, their functions and services from the capital of Kenya. And to enhance checks and balances and the separation of powers. Those are the objects. And if you want to amend that article, you go to a referendum. Principles of devolved government, Article 175. County government shall be based on democratic principles and separation of powers. County government shall have reliable sources of revenue. We have addressed those. And then Article 176, which is the structure now. There shall be a county government for each county consisting of county assembly and county executive. I think we have now understood those ones. Now let's go to 255, which was causing a problem. 255, and there are two there. 255, 1I. A proposed amendment to this constitution shall be enacted in accordance with Article 256 or 257 and approved in accordance with Clause 2 by a referendum, if the amendment relates to any of the following matters. And I is the operative one in our case. The objects, principles, and structure of devolved government. That is the only thing that requires referendum. So if you are amending Article 174, which is the objects, 175, which are the principles, structure, which is 176, then you go to a referendum. But by creating new counties, we are not amending those. We are not amending 174. We are not amending 175. We are not amending 176. We are giving them life. We are making them have legs. That is what we are doing. We are not amending the objects principle. Are we together? Yes. And then, if you go to 255.5, was it? No, 250. Yeah, I think that's the one. Or no, 256.5. 256.5. Because there's been confusion around that. If a bill to amend the constitution proposes an amendment relating to matters specified in 255.1, those matters, then there's a referendum.
Yes, we've had you, Mheshimiwa, and you've done a good job, I must admit. You've done a good job. So we will give Mheshimiwa Pukose only 1 minute because we have about 21 teams to see us today. And you are the first and you have taken about 45 minutes already.
Thank you, Chair.
Please, respectfully, 1 minute.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I wanted to respond to the issue raised by Honorable Aaron Cheriot, leader for majority in the Senate. And the issue he raised was that is there any mechanism? Because last week we had a delegation from the support community from both Mount Elgon and Trans Nzoia. And yesterday we had another team from Trans Nzoia calling themselves Trans Nzoia professionals. I would want to associate myself with the presentation by the support from both Mount Elgon and Trans Nzoia. The team that was here yesterday, they did not present a petition. They present a counter-petition. Therefore, and this team was organized by Honorable Eugene Wamalwa, who is seated here, and Governor Natembea. What I want to say is
I think that is improper. I think that
yes, that's a fact.
No, it's improper. No.
It's a fact.
Yeah, even if it's a fact, you do not have to present it the manner you are.
Yeah.
This committee's work is honorable and very serious. Tafadhali, I would ask that those remarks be expunged from the records of this meeting and address it, because you don't want to polarize. We're trying to avoid polarization, and you're drawing us right into it.
With due respect,
And Mheshimiwa, I think it's important for you to know that we have opened doors for any Kenyan who wants to come and make a presentation, whether individually or as a group like you've done today. So even if they came, it is their right to come, kindly.
But it is not right for somebody to come and make a presentation, a counter presentation against another community. If they have a petition to present to this honorable committee, let them present their petition. Respect the petition of the other team that has presented their petition. Because what I'm asking this honorable committee to do is to look at the petitions in terms of their merit, because we presented our petitions to you. Look at our petition in the merit in which we presented, not in reference to any other committee presenting their petition. That is what we only ask.
Mheshimiwa, Father, because you are not even in any of those groups that made the presentation.
Pardon?
So you are not with the Sabot community.
He clearly says he has associated himself.
You're saying you're associating
myself with their presentation.
Very well, but you are not here. So you really run the risk of misrepresentation and distortion. And as Honorable Cecilia has told you, I think you should just stand guided and let us avoid creating animosity. Yeah, and in fact, both teams have every right to appear. So since you are not there and they are not here to respond to what you are saying, I think it's only fair, Mheshimiwa, that we expunge your comments and then make progress, close the matter.
Well guided, Chair.
May I propose that, are you finished, Mheshimiwa, because we want to close this session?
Just one very important one. I want to respond to Honorable Jeriot by saying financial crisis management for the counties existing for 7 counties, for example, having a county having 80% recurrent expenditure against 20% project budget, that's managerial skills of a governor. If a governor is poor in terms of managing, for example, in CDF we are guided by a code whereby there is no CDF board do not approve your budget if you have not adhered by the rules. That means let's not base our argument that existing counties by governors mismanaging resources in terms of corruption, employing the way they want, that can be an hindrance for creation of more counties. That is structural. And
Mheshimiwa from Mwingi.
Yes.
And I'll give you 30 seconds because you're very late. And yesterday we gave Mwingi almost 30 minutes through the senator, who did a good job, by the way. So you can only take 30 seconds.
I'm guided.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. I want to be specific to Mwingi County, which applies to these 11 counties. And as you were told yesterday, Mwingi was an existing operational district with an DC and a budget in 1992, but not gazetted due to a mistake and oversight of a public officer. This applies to some of these counties. Indeed, Makueni and Tharaka Nithi became a district much later than Mwingi, yet they are now counties. So we, the people of Mwingi, consider this as an historical injustice, and we feel shortchanged.
And that was mentioned yesterday very deeply by the senator.
Give me an extra 30 seconds.
No, 10 seconds, Mwesh. 10 seconds.
Now, indeed, at the time, there only existed 2 districts in Kitui County. That is Mwingi and Kitui. And Kitui was taken as a county, and Mwingi was left out. Geographically, Kitui is in the south, and Mwingi is in the north. And we, the northerners, are referred to by the others as Andumangura, meaning we are a distinct entity from the others, and we deserve to manage our own affairs.
We've had you. Thank you very much, Mheshimiwa. We've had you.
Chairs, I have to say something about it.
I'll allow Kamket 30 seconds, Mheshimiwa Emase 30 seconds, and that is it. That is it. Mheshimiwa, 30 seconds, kindly, Mheshimiwa.
Chair, I plead for your indulgence. I plead for your indulgence. I want to ask a lady, the only lady lawyer from East Pokot. She's here.
Give her the mic if you want her to speak, and therefore you will not speak, Mheshimiwa.
No issue.
Okay, in the meantime, as you pass the mic to her, Mheshimiwa Mary Emase, make your statement. 30 seconds.
She's going to demonstrate
that
we in East Pokot are actually victims of devolution instead of beneficiaries.
We've had you. Mheshimiwa Mary Emase, the floor is yours, 30 seconds.
Thank you, Chairs, all protocols observed. I want to speak to issues that are unique to TESO. TESOs in Kenya are about 576,000. But in Busia County, we are 306, and that excludes those who are unfairly forced into the neighboring counties by virtue of the unfairness in the division of those boundaries. So because we are unique, we are Nilots. We speak a unique language. We found ourselves lumped together with the Bantus, which were my majority in Busia County. We found ourselves within Busia County, where a majority of the population are Bantus. So therefore, we feel marginalized. We have been historically marginalized. In fact, Busia is being referred, or Western region is referred to as the Mlembe Nation. We struggle to actually create that space and get our recognition in whichever forum that we find ourselves in. And this situation is replicated in Isuba, the Bantus within a Nilotic area, Kuria, Sabawots, that is one. Two, I want to demystify the myth on population, and it has been alluded to by Honorable Kalori. In fact, we are referred to like at the Tesos cannot fill a wheelbarrow. And when you look at some of the existing counties, the population of Samburu County is 310. The population of Lamu County is 143,920. The population of Isiolo County as it exists is 268,327. I can name up to 9 counties: Marsabit, Tana River, Taita Taveta, Tarakanid, Elgeyo Marakwet, Laikipia. So the issue of population does not arise. The Teso people have requested for their own county so that we can manage our own affairs. We have different tradition, culture, food, way of life.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa. Thank you.
The last one.
Lastly,
the last one is historical exclusion over the years, both politically, economically, socially, even spiritually. All of you will remember that the Teso people had to go on a hunger strike to get the Katakwa diocese. The Teso people have suffered. We even lost some of our leaders because of fighting for political space in this country. To get even the district, the Teso district, it was a fight. So you can also relate that Busia County has been very lucky. Sometimes in the past, in other governments, Busia County would have more than 3 ministers in government. More than 3 ministers and other senior positions. But none would be from the Teso region. Appointment is given
Mheshimiwa Mary Emase, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I must admit that you are true fighter for the people of Teso. And I appreciate you. Let's hear from the Pokot lady. And you have 1 minute, madam. We will give you that. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Honorable Your Excellency, the chairs of this committee. Before you today is the members of the community from the East Pokot community, and we are here to present to you our petition. We have...
you're already wasting 20 seconds. Go to the point. Go straight to the point, my dear. Go straight to the point.
The main prayer that we're making today, that we'll be allowed to manage ourselves, and for the reasons that we have been marginalized beyond measure. If I can mention a few instances of this marginalization, is that the whole of East Pokot, which has 2 sub-counties, we only have 1 medical doctor. If we go to schools, we have fewer schools, which you will see when you look through our document, compared to other parts of the county. And if we go to allocation of resources, it is worthy to state that most of the leadership positions in the county are all from one community. If I can mention a few of the top leadership, if even my people will respond to it. Our governor is from which community? Okay. Deputy governor? Okay. Senator? Okay. West Women Rep? Okay. Speaker, county speaker. So most of the flagship projects, for example, in Baringo County, are discussed at executive level, and none of the members from our community sits at that table. So where does that put us in the map of this country? So we are asking that at the least, let us govern ourselves.
We've had you. Thank you very much, and ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate your hard, good work. Thank you, lady. Thank you, lady. We've had you. We have this big document. I can tell you, we are not taking any document brought before us for granted. We'll look at it in depth, and we will make sure that we do the necessary.
Ijara.
And thank you very much.
Please, can I talk,
thank
please?
you.
Can I talk, please?
We have 20 more teams on this list that are coming before us. We've had you bring your...
kindly indulge the Ijara community because they are here. If they can just say a word.
30 seconds.
Thank you very much.
Seconds.
Thank you. 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you. All protocol observed. First, I want to say that...
And can we have one meeting? Meeting order, please?
The meeting is still ongoing.
Thank you very much. All protocol observed. As Iara County, first I want to support the caucus, and we are part and parcel. Ijara is the nation is the home of the great statesman, our late Yusuf Haji, Allah Rahma, and Ijara is very unique because it is the only Ijara is the only constituency that holds Hirola as a specimen in the whole of the world, the white giraffe. And if you don't make Ijara a county, the white giraffe will be killed left, right, center. If you come to the population, Ijara has 300,000 population, which is 30% of Garissa County. 200, that's and over 200,000 are all over the country. The other factor that you will consider is the landmass. Ijara is 27% of Garissa County, which is 11,332. If you just consider population-wise, Lamu has 143,000, Isiolo has 268,000, and if you see, Ijara also was gazetted, was mentioned, was existing in 1992, and it was not gazetted just because we share the same common with Mwingi district. And Ijara was first in the national plan of Kenya, 1967 to 1972. And if you see right now, if you go back to Ijara was doing well, better before even devolution. Masalani was doing well, but right now it's a ghost town.
Wide up now.
So because of that, we support to be created Ijara.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Asante, Majority Leader.
Chair, maybe the member for Ijara, because he had the mic, and I know the Honorable Karoli Omondi had read Article 188 of the Constitution. Member for Ijara, I am addressing you. And all the other honorable members of the National Assembly who are here, and I'm told Honorable Karoli Omondi had read to you Article 188 of the Constitution that says the boundaries of a county may be altered only by a resolution recommended by an independent commission set up for that purpose by Parliament and passed by the National Assembly. You are all members of Parliament who sit in the National Assembly. Has any one of you made an attempt to have a resolution to set up a commission to review the county boundaries in Parliament as stipulated in Article 188 of the Constitution? And what would your view be, member for Iara? Yesterday we had an intelligent young man from Homa Bay County here who told us this committee has no mandate to review boundaries in his interpretation of that article of the Constitution. What would your take be? Honorable Abdi, you have the mic.
As Honorable Abdi,
let Kitayama maybe answer for you.
My leader, as the Honorable Abdi is preparing himself, we have made several attempts. You will recall that when BBI was happening, several communities, actually similar, the same communities that are here today before.
Honorable Marwa, I asked a specific question.
Yes.
You are members of Parliament.
I am coming to that.
Just go straight to that.
I am coming to that.
BBI, just go straight there to save time.
Yes, we have a bill, proposed bill, that is yet to be tabled in Parliament. And I'm sure...
So you have a bill that is yet to be tabled in Parliament?
Yes.
Thank you.
That is one.
That's
and
good
then
enough.
You did
it is yet to?
Yes, we have it here. We have it here.
You have it here.
Yes.
It is attached to the documents you have come before this committee.
Majority Leader,
Very well.
Meaning you had not done anything before you came here?
No, we have. We have.
So why hasn't it been tabled to Parliament? Why is it being tabled here?
Because it has not been prioritized. The bill is already with a document of Parliament.
I am a member of the House Business Committee.
It is on.
May I confirm to you before the House Business Committee of the National Assembly, there is no indication of any bill, any legislative proposal, and therefore I am challenging you as members of Parliament, Honorable Member, if you can allow me to finish, I am only challenging you as members of Parliament who are able to read this Constitution for us. Please, I would want to urge you to also pursue that route because that is what the Constitution says.
Yes.
And that was pointed out to us yesterday by a young man called Michael from Homa Bay County.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think we are done. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We end there. We kindly end there, Mheshimiwa.
Memorandum
Thank
we want
you
to
very
present
much.
before
Just
you.
bring the memorandum.
The Kuria people kindly go forward, present your memorandum. The TESO elders kindly present your memorandum.
Mheshimiwa, we already have the memorandum. There's no need to present again.
Those are elders for memorandum. Kindly present yourself. Yes, kindly do that. The Kuria people kindly.
Mheshimiwa Kitayama, please allow us. You exit through the right to allow us to be able to continue with the other groups.
Done. Thank you.
Asanteni sana. East Pokot County, exit through the right.
Kindly, we beg that you exit quickly. Exit. Thank you. My people. Thanks, my sister. Thank you. Kindly, can we have...
Order, please exit.
We support you. Yes. Kindly,
Sergeant Atams, usher all these people, including members of parliament, out.
Can we have the next team coming in? The next team, can they come in, please? Gentlemen, members of the committee, we have taken exactly 1 hour, 10 minutes with that team. If we go by that pace, we will not manage to finish all these groups that are here. So I want to beg that if you're given a chance to ask a question, be as brief as possible. And somebody please help us manage Hassan, especially. Today Eugene is quite aongei sana, but Hassan needs to be managed. When you're given a moment, take 1 minute maximum if you want to seek clarification or comment. Kindly. I think, Chair, there's a proposal here. Kindly, could we also have the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops led in? Kindly. Which one is this? This is NCCK, but we're also requesting the Kenya Catholic Bishops, Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, KCCB, to come in also.
Yeah, of course, they will present.
They'll present at their time, but we'd want them to be together also so that they benefit from each other. Secretariat? Where are they? Okay, tell them. But in the meantime, the NCCK will start. Welcome, and we'll give you a chance to present. Just make an introduction. But before you is the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, Majority Leader, and also who is the Chair. I'm just sitting in for him. Honorable Catherine Wabilianga, Honorable Hassan Omar Hassan, Honorable Aaron Cheriot, and then Honorable Opio Wandai, Honorable Eugene Wamalwa, and Honorable Amina Mnyazi, and then of course my co-chair, His Excellency Honorable Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. Karibuni.
Thank you very much, Chair.
And it's important to let you know you have exactly 20 minutes. So be as brief as possible. Go straight to the real issues so that you don't waste time on non-issues, quote unquote. Focus on the real issues.
Thank you very much, Chair. My name is Reverend Canon Chris Kinyanjui, the General Secretary of NCCK. To my left is Henry Njagi, then Reverend Mother Wangari, Father Diani from the Orthodox Church. We have the moderator of the PCA, Dr. Thegu on my left. To my right is the chair of NCCK, Dr. Timothy Dambuki. We have our vice chair of NCCK, Dr. Okinda. We have Mary from the Mothers Union, and we have Bishop Ole Mpeo from the Kenya Evangelical Lutheran Church. So we are full house, and without wasting time, I'll give this chance to the chair of NCCK to lead the next conversation.
Okay. Thank you. Chairs, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for giving us an opportunity to come here to represent the church under the umbrella of the NCCK memo to you this morning. Honorable chairs, we are grateful for this opportunity to present this memorandum to this honorable committee. What we will share with you today is a summarized version of the full memorandum we submitted to yourselves via email on September 15th, 2023. We'll be glad to clarify on any areas you may require further information on regards our memorandum on the overall state of our nation. The National Council of Churches of Kenya is a family of Christian churches and communions established in 1913. This makes NCCK the oldest and the largest umbrella body for the churches in Kenya, bringing together 32 member churches and 18 Christian organizations. NCCK has presence in all the 47 counties, bringing together 16 million Christians organized in over 50,000 congregations. Structurally, the NCCK has devolved to the grassroots with the governance organs that comprise of wards, committees, county coordinating committees, regional committees, executive committee, and a General Assembly. The Council endeavors to fulfill the vision, one church, united in faith and mission, witnessing to Jesus Christ and transforming lives. Being guided by the mission, holistic transformation. On a point of order,
yes.
Maybe to guide the Reverend, Bishop, please, you spare us the history. Just go straight to the issues, as we said, in the interest of time.
Thank you. Now, centrality of dialogue. Honorable chairs, we commend your committee for progress you have made in reaching agreement on the agenda for the bipartisan consultative process that has been bestowed on you. Recommendations on the agenda items set out by the committee. Having keenly considered the 5 agenda items outlined in the notice of public participation, we submitted the full memorandum with more details and justifications. Allow us to highlight the following recommendations. Outstanding constitutional matters, the cost of living and the related issues. To address the spiraling cost of living, we strongly recommend that that the Finance Act 2023 be reviewed to reduce the tax burden imposed on the people. This will provide incentives to micro and macro investments, which are the core drivers of economic recovery of the nation. Further to this, we recommend a forensic audit of the national debt to ensure the Kenyans pay back only those debts that were legitimately taken and used for the benefit of the people of Kenya. Implementation of the 2/3 gender rule.
having considered the measures and the proposals made for attainment of 2/3 gender rule over the last 13 years, we recommend that the government prepare a comprehensive report detailing the measures taken to comply with the provision in Article 27, Clause 8. The report should show laws, policies, and the strategies developed and implemented, as well as reporting on action taken when state bodies, organs, and committees have failed to adhere to the rule. Governance issues, including promoting national unity and inclusivity in public appointments. To promote national unity and inclusivity in public appointments, we recommend that appointing authorities shall ensure the face of Kenya and the ethnic balance is respected and seen to be done. Constitutional commissions be accorded genuine financial and operational freedom, and that their decisions be respected and adhered to. To entrench the rule of law, the executive and the parliament should stop the blatant disregard and dishonest disobedience of court orders and desist from disparaging the judiciary, attempts, checks and balances. Recognizably, honorable chairs, the future well-being of Kenya is predicted on constitutionalism and the rule of law. We strongly recommend that reading of the Constitution of Kenya be included as a unit in the basic and tertiary education curriculum. I want to ask the Vice Chair to continue.
Thank you, Honorable Chairs. My name is Bishop Dr. John Okinda, the Vice Chairman, NCCK, and the President of PEFA Churches here in Kenya. Honorable Chairs, I will deal with electoral justice and related matters. 1. Restructuring and reconstituting of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Honorable Chairs, the current state in which Kenya does not have a properly constituted election management body is risky. This must be remedied with utmost urgency. Towards this end, the National Council of Churches recommends that the agreement be reached soonest for the reconstruction of the IEBC commissioners selection panel so that the process is completed soonest. Number 2, boundaries delimitation. As provided in Article 88 of the Constitution, the boundaries delimitation exercise is limited to 2 things. A, review of boundaries of constituencies to balance population quotas and change of names of constituencies where necessary, and B, review of boundaries, names and number of wards. Toward this end, National Council of Churches advises that this Honorable National Dialogue Committee urgently complete the process of recruitment of IEBC commissioners so that the process commences without delay. It is now clear that the deadline of March 2024 for delimitation will be violated, creating a constitutional crisis. NCCK recommends that an advisory opinion be sought from the courts with consideration of extending the timelines for delimitation process by 2 years. Number 3, audit of 2022 presidential election. Honorable Chairs, despite the provision of principles of election and democratic elections in Article 81 of the
Constitution, the results of each presidential election since 2007 have been questioned, at times with devastating results. To work towards long-standing and understanding of the shortcomings in these elections and how to enhance their credibility, we recommend the enactment of legislation to establish a judicial commission to carry out an audit of the 2022 general elections to ensure the process promotes peace, stability, and national cohesion. Entrenching funds into the Constitution. Honorable Chairs, in your communication, reference was made to intention to entrench 3 funds in the Constitution, and this being 1, National Government Constituency Development Fund, and 2, National Government Affirmative Fund, and number 3, Senate Oversight Fund. We observed that these funds would be managed by members of National Assembly, women representatives of counties, and in the National Assembly and Senate respectively. Nonetheless, we do note with emphasis that the Constitution does not allocate any funds management responsibilities to the 2 houses of Parliament. This would offend and in essence negate the principle of separation of powers. We therefore recommend that the 3 funds are not established and the existing Constituency Development Fund be terminated as they are in contravention of the Constitution. Honorable Chairs, allow me to say something on establishment and entrenchment of state offices. 1, the office of the leader of the official opposition, and 2, the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary. Honorable Chairs, the National Council of Churches of Kenya is on record recommending that measures be taken to provide for a dignified opposition. The proposal for creation of the office of the leader of the official opposition is therefore a step in the right direction. Quite notably, there was appointed a holder of the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, a position that currently does not exist in the Constitution. The proposed establishment of the office of this office is therefore a move to legalize what already exists. Recognizing that the establishment of the 2 positions would change the structure of government as outlined in the Constitution, we recommend that a people-driven process be created to run in which Kenyans debate about the 2 proposed positions to determine their scope, mandate, and implications. Thank you, Honorable Chairs.
Honorable Chairs, we are getting to the conclusion. We have also spoken to the fidelity to political parties, coalitions, and the law on multi-party democracy. That is preventing interference with political parties' coalitions. Honorable Chairs, Article 4, subsection 2 of the Constitution provides that the Republic of Kenya shall be a multi-party democratic state founded on the national values and principles of governance referred to in Article 10. It is therefore inimical to the Constitution for any person or organ to engage in any actions that would offend the democratic nature of the Republic. We further recognize the Constitution in Article 38 accords Kenyans the right to hold and change political opinions and to join or exit political parties at wish. Nonetheless, a person who changes or is deemed to have changed the party that nominated them for any position should lose that position. To address the concerns that have been raised with regard to interference with opposition political parties by government, we recommend implementation of the processes and procedures provided for in the Constitution of the political parties as well as the Political Parties Act. In regard to proposals to amend the Constitution, Honorable Chairs, the NCCK speaks to it and says, allows us to to specifically recommend against any proposal to amend the Constitution. Instead, we urge you to identify and drive legislative and policy measures to address the issues set out in the agenda. It will not be prudent at this moment in time to subject the country to the polarization and the politicization of life that accompanies constitutional amendment discussed when there is a potentially divisive boundaries delimitation process coming up in a short while and an economic meltdown. In conclusion, we in NCCK commend the National Dialogue Committee for the process you have engaged in. However, the time frame provided is rather short, which has the risk of forcing the committee to adopt a political settlement with minimal public participation. NCCK recommends that the committee engages Kenyans at the county level to ensure no Kenyan is left unheard. We recommend that the term of the committee to be extended for this purpose. On our part, we remain committed to the betterment of Kenya. We will continue promoting dialogue at all levels so that Kenyans build a common vision for a just, resilient, sustainable future, being inspired by the words of Prophet Amos, chapter 3, verse 3, do two walk together unless they have agreed to do so? That is our memorandum.
Thank you very much. I just note that what you're reading is not in our document here. Is it? Where? Mine is
summarized. You have a summary.
Oh, you are summarizing. Okay, okay.
Yes, but we can give you the summary as well.
Yeah, please do. Please give us. Now, I'll ask the majority leader who will be leaving us shortly to ask his questions.
Thank you, Chair.
And we have exactly 5 minutes. So even as you ask the questions, 1 minute each.
Chair, let me thank the NCCK for their presentation. And I'll go straight to the question. One is on the Finance Act review of 2023 and the allegation on page 6 of their document for the executive and the legislature to stop the blatant disregard and disobedience of court orders. I would want to benefit from specifics. Which court orders has the legislature or the executive in the recent past blatantly disobeyed? And on the review of the Finance Act 2023, they say we reduce the tax burden. I would want to know what are the specific proposals in the Finance Act 2023 that they would want reviewed, and if they have estimated the quantum of what they call the tax burden on the 2023 tax proposals. Two, Chair, is on their recommendation regarding the IEBC selection panel. I see they have actually analyzed very well the options that the country has, and they recommend that political parties should not play a role in this process, while in their final recommendation, they recommend the reconstitution of the panel, and in what they say is a win-win situation. Is that to say you want a panel, a new panel appointed without any representation of political parties? Does that include the political parties liaison committee? Would that include the Parliamentary Service Commission that has representation of political parties? And which other bodies would you be recommending to be represented in this panel to the exclusion of political parties? Lastly, Chair, is on the recommendation on the funds, NGCDF, and the Senate oversight, and they say that establishment of these funds is inimical to the principle of separation of powers. I do not know if NCCK is aware that members of parliament do not implement anything to do with NGCDF, and the proposal by the Senate Oversight Fund is not for any implementation of funds.
is basically to enable senators to do their oversight work as espoused in the Constitution, Articles 94 to 96. Whereas for NGCDF, members of parliament do not, and maybe you may have based that argument on the old NGCDF Act. The reviewed NGCDF Act, members of parliament have absolutely no role. They are no longer patrons, they don't implement. Therefore, I want to get an understanding, how do you find it that members of parliament then, or senators, in view of the changes that have been there in the NGCDF Act and the proposal by the Senate for the Senate Oversight Fund, the same with GAF, the women reps have no role in implementation. These are funds established in the executive. Members of parliament play an oversight role over those funds and don't manage the funds. How then do you find that being inimical to the principal separation of powers, with members of parliament, senators, and women reps having no role in those funds? Thank you.
You know, Kimani has given you a mouthful. I would suggest that you take notes. He's given you very many points, and since he is like in a hurry, in fact, Mheshimiwa Kimani Ichung'wah, you know, the final recommendation by NCCK is a fear for a political settlement because of the rushed manner that we have to take into account. So if you could, one more comment or two more comments.
Yeah.
But I want to plead with you that you don't take it against the work of this committee. If we do not, actually we had taken into account the need to go all over the country. And we realized because of 60 days time limit, we may not do justice by so doing. Therefore, we settled for the stakeholder engagement, which is what you are actually doing this morning, along with others. And since you represent over 37 million faithfuls, I'm quite sure you can understand when we tell you we do not have to go to the counties, to the wards, because we think that those are ably recommended. That's your final recommendation against a political settlement.
Thank you. And Your Excellency, you should have mentioned also the issue of the budget. We had no budget to do that.
Oh, well said. Mine is very, very short. You are pitching for a speedy reconstitution of the IEBC. And you are making a raft of recommendations on how the panel needs to be rejigged. But I want to ask you, first and foremost, what relationship does the NCCK, if at all, have with the body commonly known as Interreligious Council of Kenya, which, as we speak, under the current Act, is represented at the IEBC selection panel by 2 representatives? Are you, by any chance, a member or an affiliate of the Interreligious Council? And do you feel adequately represented by that body? Thank you.
Thank you. I think those are sufficient comments. Thank you. Over to you, Secretary General and the Chair. And you know, Chair, we must make a disclosure. We were together this Sunday, and thank you for the wonderful inspirational sermon. And you promised to come, but you were talking about Wednesday. We made it possible for you Tuesday, which is today. Karibuni sana.
Thank you. Good. Thank you very much, Chairs. Let me start with the Finance Act. We made ourselves very clear in terms of the provisions of the Finance Act that the Finance Act increased the tax burden of Kenyans. I will not put all the examples, but I will take, for example, the VAT for purposes of fuel. We know fuel plays a key role in fueling and powering the economy. So when the VAT was increased by 8%, it has literally affected every sector of the economy. And I think that is something that we need to discuss as Kenyans and ask ourselves whether we want to continue that way. And it was made worse that the subsidy that was there before, although it has been replaced by the Stabilization Fund, needs to have cognizance of the concerns that are raised by Kenyans and especially the business community. On court orders, we have been working with other agencies that have documented court orders that have been disobeyed or disregarded, not just by this regime, but also the previous regime. And it is something that is of great concern to us as religious leaders, because constitutionalism, which has been the bedrock of law and order, requires that every institution respects the other. And without going into details, this is something that we feel needs to be taken seriously going forward.
I think I'm okay. I just wanted that clarification.
Yes.
It is even from past regimes, because in the last 1 year, I would have really benefited from a single court order that either Parliament or the executive has disregarded. So if you're going back to past regimes, I think I'm satisfied.
Yes, it's a historical fact, and we would like that
But also to point out
happen.
to you, General Secretary,
yes,
the stabilization fund is not a new fund. It had been there. Again, it had been abused and misused elsewhere. It's always existed.
Yes, there's always...
And General Secretary, please don't be intimidated by Kimani Chungo.
Yes, the majority
they are only informing him because he seems not
protection
to...
from the majority leader.
I'm only informing. You know, General Secretary is sitting next to my moderator.
Yes.
Therefore, I cannot attempt.
He might excommunicate you.
General Secretary,
Yes.
respectfully, you have 2 last minutes to say something.
Yes, if it doesn't interject, I'll finish quickly. On IEBC panel, we have a very simple approach. We don't want political parties to play a role in selection of IEBC commissioners. We want a professional IEBC. We have been involved in this for quite a long time, since 1992. So we believe that because there was a lot of controversy around the selection panel that is in place, of which we also have 2 representatives, which was the question from the minority leader, is that we are open to look backwards and say, can we get a panel that is acceptable to all the sides in the political arena? That is what we are saying. So that then we can get an IEBC and a commission that is professional. We do not wish to have, it's our position that the IPPG framework, which created the ECK, where political parties directly nominated the commissioners, was creating a situation where the referee is chosen by the parties and the players. So we are for a professional IEBC. And you know the law was amended, there were court orders and so on and so forth. So we have been involved in this game and would prefer that a political settlement that gives us a panel that is agreeable and gives us commissioners that are also agreeable to Kenyans, then we can move on. On funds, I think we are clear. Political leaders in this country want to manage funds. CDF was created in early 2000 to provide for devolved funds. It was after we got the new constitution, there was no alignment with the new constitution. So it's time for us to actually align these funds, because I know also once we pass this one for oversight by Senate, because Senate have been demanding a fund as well, and the women rep. What about the MCAs? So what we are saying is what is good for the goose is also good for the gander. Then go ahead and establish a fund for every MCA in this country, which is going to be absurd. So let's do away with these funds. I'm not saying we do away with them tomorrow, but can we have a conversation so that the executive runs with funds? Then we have our parliamentarians running with oversight. I think on the last question, yes, we participate and we are members of IRCK, the Interreligious Council, and we have 2 representatives in the panel. But even having them on board, we know the challenges we had when we nominated them. We have full confidence in them, but Kenya is bigger than all of us. It's time for us to sit down and talk and come up with a panel that is acceptable to all parties. And then we can have an IEBC. Thank you very much.
Chair, maybe just to clarify, my question was,
in the absence of political parties nominating panelists, are there other bodies? I was hoping maybe you would say, in relation to what the minority law was asking, whether you have any relation with the Interreligious Council, that maybe we remove the 2 representatives from the Parliamentary Service Commission, the Political Parties Liaison Committee, because in a way, political parties have control of the Parliamentary Service Commission because it's a commission for parliamentarians and their political parties as much as they are also independents in Parliament. The Political Parties Liaison Committee is represented in that selection panel, and those are political parties represented in that panel. Are you then proposing we remove even those, maybe include the Episcopal Conference and NCCK, give the religious community more representation, or put other professional bodies like ISPAC, give more representation to LSK? Maybe for information, LSK has 1 representative, Interreligious Council has 2, Parliamentary Service Commission 2, and who is the other one? The Public Service Commission 1, and the Political Parties Liaison Committee 1 in that selection panel. So that composition, how would you propose we tinker with it?
Yes, I know it started when we had 4. The religious leaders had 4. Because you know the history after 2017 election, I think, that we had to disband the IEBC that was there then, the Isaac Hassan Committee. So we 2 of them were taken from us. If you allow the religious leaders have the interest of this country, they can form the entire panel and give you the best. They can give you the best commission. The only thing is that now we bring the SUPKEM, we bring the Hindu Council, we bring the KCCB and NCCK and all the other faiths, and we'll have the best. But we know that may not be acceptable. So we are happy to have the 2. We are happy with the Political Parties Liaison Committee participating, because they also have a role to play, and political parties can have consensus on 2. So we cannot completely deny political parties a role to play in the selection panel. Yes. What we were against is the principle where we go back to the IPPG framework. Yes, where they nominate directly.
We heard from Attorney General Emeritus yesterday, Moswako, who presided over the selection panel. I think it was not the panel. When you do mention that, I think the first chair of IEBC, the late Justice Zacchaeus Chesoni. But he had a category of Kenyans he called people with gravitas. People who cannot be compromised. Could you think about that? So that even as you think of having a professional, what you're saying, a professional IBC, you end up with the problem we have had in this country, Canon Kenyanjui, is men and women who get compromised, who get bought with money, and they bring such hurt and harm to our country. So could you think of people with gravitas? People, in that case, we have people like Margaret Kenyatta at that time. She was the first mayor, and she had authority. Even Mzee Moi at that time could not do anything about it. The late Harry Mule, an icon of integrity, right? And that is what delivered the most democratic election outcome in 2002. Since that time, with all our professional commissioners and others, Kenyans have come to grief. Think about this and perhaps pray about it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. That's important. And I think what makes IEBC dependent is not the security of tenure. It is the character of every commissioner. I think we have suffered in the last several years, and we need to see how we can up our game as a country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are most grateful, very grateful for your presentation as NCCK. You're a big voice in this country. We want to hear the next big voice, that is KCCB. If you want to stay on and hear what they have to say, you're most welcome. KCCB, you're next. The Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, KCCB.
I'm going to give a copy. The summary.
You can introduce yourselves.
Here before you is the KCCB team that has come to do our memorandum on these different issues that were identified by the National Dialogue Committee. Father Charles Kilonzo.
George Biruri.
Wanjala Nasimio.
Constance Mtende.
So on behalf of KCCB, we will go straight to present our memorandum.
Now, before you do, I'm sure you're conversant with these faces by now, thanks to the media. I think everybody knows Honorable Catherine Wabelianga, a former senator, now member for Yala, Hassan Omar. We have Amina Munyazi, member from Malindi. Mheshimiwa Eugene Wamalo is a party leader and a former cabinet minister. The deputy minority leader, Kimani Chunga, has just walked out. Opio Ndai, the co-chair. Oh, there's Senator Omugen, Senator for Nyamira. And then we have Cicely Barire and myself. Karibuni.
Asandi. So, honorable chairs and the whole committee, all protocols observed. I was saying we'll go straight to the presentation of our memorandum. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I will do the presentation on behalf of the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops. And we are the General Secretariat management who have come to represent the bishops. I will go straight to the issues. The first one being outstanding constitutional issues. We were able to come up with specific issues under the same outstanding issues. And under Article 43 of the Constitution, on the issue of the cost of living and related issues, these are the issues raised by KCCB. The first one is high standard of health. And here are our concerns. We are still not very comfortable with the way the Article 43 and Article 26(4) of the Constitution have been framed. And KCCB is of the view that it still promotes the issue of reproductive health rights in terms of abortions, and those two articles somehow are disguised to promote abortion. The second issue that we have is the cost of health is very high. The cost of healthcare is very high. There's lack of health facilities in some areas. There's inadequate equipment in health facilities. There's a lot of jurisdictional conflict between the national and county government health sectors, and especially the hospitals. We have issues with the frequent strikes by the medical personnel. There's the conflict of interest by the medical personnel, especially the public officers who are allowed to open their private clinics, and they tend to concentrate more on the private clinics that they operate more than the public hospitals. Then there's still the issue of corruption, and the stealing of drugs and equipment has also been reported. These are the proposals on how to deal with the high standard of health. The first one is to amend Article 43(1)(a) and Article 26(4) to outlaw abortion. We need it to be very clear from the articles of the Constitution that abortion is outlawed in Kenya. We will also request that there should be a relooking at the national insurance model to make it affordable for the poor. We also request that we amend Article 186 and the fourth schedule to provide that the functions of the level 4, 5, and 6 hospitals to be assigned to the national government. In that way, we'll ensure that there is a proper administration of the hospitals, and the other levels should go to the county government. We're also requesting that we amend the government or the members of parliament amend the Health Act to restrain the public officers from opening and running their private clinics. Our second issue is the non-denial of emergency medical treatment. We agree that it's a noble thing for the patients to be treated when there's an emergency. However, we have an issue with the fact that sometimes these patients are unable to pay the medical bills after they are treated, and we therefore request that the NHIF Act and any other health acts are amended to have an emergency fund to cater for any emergency issues from patients who have emergency issues, so that the patients do not suffer and the hospitals do not suffer in the end of it all. On the issue of accessible and adequate housing and reasonable standards of sanitation, these are the concerns from KCCB. The government housing programs have failed in the past. Number 2, the government should only concentrate on creating an enabling environment and developing good policies. And we therefore recommend that the Finance Act should be amended to remove the housing tax levy, because there is a possibility that it will not perform well as envisioned from the previous history that we have. Another concern that we had was freedom from hunger and adequate food of accessible quality. And these are our issues from KCCB. There is no Food Security Act that is being implemented. There is a lot of food that goes to waste due to inadequate storage facilities and lack of accessible markets. For example, what is happening in Iara County right now with the issue of maize and their storage. Then we have dishonest people who have been interfering with the safety of food and risking the health of the people. These are our proposals. We request that we enact the Food Security Act and implement measures that will promote food production in Kenya. We also request that measures should be taken to promote agricultural production, and the farmers should be given more priority when it comes to giving out food and buying of food by the government. We also request that the government puts in place measures to prevent interference with food safety, and they develop a program to provide food to the people who cannot afford. There's also an issue with the adequate, clean and safe water, and the main concerns are the drying up of rivers, the pollution of rivers, inadequate dams, irregular water supplies, and contaminated water. We request that the Environmental Management and Coordination Act should be enforced to ensure that the water is protected. We also request that some measures should be put in place to clean up the rivers, and more dams should be built, especially in areas that are flooding, so that when we have floods, you can be able to store the water and it can be used later on during the dry areas. We also request for an improved water supply system. The issue of social security, we have had reports of corruption in the social security schemes, and there is also delays in the release of retirees' pension. These are our proposals: streamline the social security schemes, stop the corruption in the retirement benefit schemes, ensure timely release of pension to the retirees. And on the issue of provision of appropriate social security to persons who are unable to support themselves and their dependents, these are the concerns. We have had allegations of corruption in the cash transfer program. There are also many people who are qualified, yet they are left out from the scheme. They do not benefit from it. And there's also the delay of the release of the cash transfer of the funds to the people. We request for the following: investigate and stop any corruption in the cash transfer system. The government should ensure that anyone who qualifies for it and is eligible is enrolled for the same. There should be timely release of cash, and there should be a relooking into the system to ensure that only those who are needy benefit from it, and those who are able to take care of themselves, they should be allowed to do it without interfering with the money that is meant for the needy. There's the issue of education. There is confusion in the system. There is inadequate education facilities. There is inadequate funding. There's lack of transparency in the university financial model, and there is lack of jobs. At the moment, we know there is some money from HELB, but who qualifies and how the same is done is not very clear to the public. We request for the following: streamlining the education system, building the adequate education facilities, improving transparency in the university education financial model, especially the HELB system, develop policies that will create jobs for the graduates. Then there was a specific issue concerning the implementation of the 2/3 gender rule, and these are our concerns from KCCB. Delays in the implementation of the gender principle in Parliament, failure to respect the principle in government appointments. And we propose the following: amend Articles 97 and 98 to reduce the size of Parliament so that the cost of burden can be reduced from the general public. We also request that we use the forthcoming elimination of electoral units to reduce the size of Parliament so that the number can reduce, and in the end of it all, the burden that is transferred to the public is reduced. Governance issues, including promoting national unity and inclusivity in public appointments. These are our issues. Perceived exclusion of people from the opposition areas in appointments and development. There is also an issue in discrimination of opposition areas in the allocation of funds for development and infrastructure. There's also an issue in promotion of ethnicity in politics. These are our proposals. Enforce the outlawing of discrimination in terms of appointments, development, and allocation of funds. We also request that there should be equity. The government should ensure that there is equity in the allocation of funds and projects from all over the country. It doesn't matter whether you're in the opposition side or in the government side. We also request for promotion of collaboration between the government and the opposition for peaceful coexistence. The other specific issue we had was adequate checks and balances, and these are the concerns from KCCB. Weakening of the opposition through defections, weakening of the constitutional commissions through underfunding and interference with their mandate, breach of the principle of separation of powers.
Yeah, can I suggest that
Yes.
since we have the memorandum, she skips the column on concerns and just goes to
Okay.
proposals.
So that I can go straight to the proposals?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So on the adequate checks and balances, these are our proposals. Amend the Political Parties Act to discourage poaching of opposition members. Represent and respect and adequately fund the constitutional commissions, the arms of the government to operate independently as per the Constitution. On the specific issue of restructuring and reconstitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commissions, these are our proposals. Tighten Article 250 of the Constitution to provide for a fair and transparent election and appointment process of the chairman and the commissioners. We are also proposing that we amend the IEBC Act to provide for an acceptable selection process. Amend either Article 88 or 250 to provide for an independent body to appoint the chairman and the commissioners. The selection process should involve all major stakeholders and not only or mainly the political parties. Amend the IEBC Act to provide for the vetting of the IEBC Secretariat. The Secretariat staff, and we're also requesting that we amend the IEBC Act to provide that the field staff shall be hired on a need basis only. This would reduce the burden from the public because they are paid even when there's nothing much to be done on the ground. On the specific issues of boundary delimitation, these are our proposals. Amend Article 6 of the Constitution to correct the disparity and provide for a formula for delimitation of counties. Amend Article 89 to provide for a more just formula, the delimitation of counties and the wards. Sorry, the constituencies and the wards. Specific issues on audit of the 2022 presidential elections. These are our proposals. Amend Article 88 4H to remove the evaluation function from the IEBC. When you evaluate yourself, most of the time you will not be able to give proper reports. Amend Article 88 to provide for an independent audit within 1 year after the elections. On the issue of the National Government Constituency Development Funds, the National Government Affirmative Action Funds, and the Senate Oversight Fund, we propose the following. We do not in any way oppose the entrenchment of the funds in our constitution. We are, however, opposed to the fact that there is no separation of powers when it comes to checks and balances, and the legislators should not be allowed or be involved in the executive duties. We also request that we amend the respective Funds Act to provide that the funds shall be managed by the executive branch of the counties or the local national government administration. And we are requesting that the Senate Oversight Fund that is in the process of being introduced should be stopped. Finally, on the office of the leader of the official opposition, we propose the following. Amend the constitution to provide for the office of the leader of the opposition. We are, however, not very comfortable with the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary because the title is very confusing, and we propose that we retain the provisions in Article 152, and therefore we should not have the post in the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary. Those are our submissions. I will wind up with preventing interference with political parties. The proposal is to amend Section 14A, B, and C of the Political Parties Act to provide that a by-election must be held where a member defects. Thank you very much to the honorable panel. I'll hand over to Father.
Yeah. I've got a very small question to you.
Wandai and then Omar.
Very, very small question.
Yeah.
You have suggested that we do away or we amend Article 88(4)H.
Yes.
To remove the task of evaluation of elections from the IEBC and take it elsewhere.
Yes.
I realize the fact that even as currently crafted, that section doesn't actually give that task to IEBC. It simply requires the IEBC to facilitate that evaluation. Just try to ponder around that. 2, are you in any way associated with the body going by the name Interreligious Council of Kenya, which is currently represented in the IEBC selection panel by 2 representatives? And if you are, do you feel adequately represented by those 2 persons? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mine will be very brief on the housing levy. The housing that is being built by government is intended for the most vulnerable in society. If you look at the criteria for the awarding of those housing, they are incomes of people who naturally will not access credit from a conventional bank. 1, there is a KMRC, Kenya Mortgage Refinance Corporation, that is intended to give affordable credit to will-be house buyers. Will-be house buyers. Will-be house buyers. And that mortgage, affordable mortgage, is to be at the cost of 5 to 6%. Guys, at the cost of 5 to 6%. Yeah, 5 to 6%. So that takes care of the demand side. The housing levy is supposed to encourage developers. That thing you're talking about, creating the enabling environment. If developers don't have somebody who can take the market risk through the supply side, what proposals do you have that can amend and remove the housing levy and still encourage developers to produce housing at affordability at a margin of about 12 to 15% profit?
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Honorable Catherine, and then later Honorable Amina.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Whereas they have given us a very good proposals, especially on the standards of hospitals and maybe the health facilities as far as they're concerned. And your proposals are quite in line. I think I concur with them, especially where you say the practitioners tend to really concentrate more on their private practices and and forget about the public hospitals. There I would really concur. You had a proposal on the 2/3 gender rule. That's where I'm coming next. And your proposal was not clear. It just said you reduce the burden. By reducing the constituencies and reducing the counties, is that your way of balancing the 2/3 gender rule? What else can you say about that? And also you had something on the Senate Oversight Fund, and it was just blatantly you stop it. You said you don't approve of it. You have not given us any reasons as to why you don't approve the Senate fund to be entrenched. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mheshimiwa Amina.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is a short one. During campaigns, we witnessed and we saw that so many religious bodies were actively involved in campaigns. Right now, we have issues as a country, especially on the cost of living, and so many Kenyans are suffering. My question would be, as religious bodies, have you done enough to air out your voices to the authorities involved in order to, manage the cost of living?
Chair, through you. Chair, through you.
Yes. Senator Mugeni.
Yeah. Now, I've seen at first is to thank the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops for a very comprehensive presentation that also seeks to, you ask questions, identify problem, and provide answers. That's commendable. Now, on delimitation or boundaries, this is a fairly sensitive matter, very emotive. You have made a proposal that we amend Article 89, okay, and Article 6, so that we correct the disparity and provide a formula for delimitation of counties. And you have also said we amend 89 so that we have what you call a more just formula in the delimitation of constituencies and wards. Now, what we have in the current Article 89 is to use population but allow a deviation of 40% in urban areas, 30% in rural. You have posed a question, but you have not told us what is this just formula that you want us to replace with what is in Article 89. So can you maybe tell us what is in your thinking? What more just formula are you looking at? So that you ask the question and give us a solution. And then finally, the political parties, coalition, fidelity to political parties. You have made a proposal that we amend Section 14 to provide that a by-election must be held where a member defects. Maybe you just help us, if we were to define a defection in our current political, you live in Kenya, I live in Kenya. When is a member deemed to have defected from his party? Thank you.
Thank you. You can now respond, and you have 5 minutes to do so, kindly.
Father will start.
Okay, Father.
Thank you. I will start with the question on Interreligious Council of Kenya, our representation as KCCB. One, we believe in interreligious dialogue, and there are many things that we engage together with the other churches. When it comes to this Interreligious Council of Kenya, our position and the view is especially that we be represented as KCCB.
What does it mean there, on the chair? Are you part of that council or not? Or were you a party to the decision of the council to second those two representatives to the panel or not?
There were issues to be ironed in terms of the representation. And we are just saying simply, would wish to be represented as KCCB.
That's fair enough. Okay, let's proceed.
I will answer on the issue of the Senate fund. We find it's unnecessary for us to create a Senate fund because already the Parliamentary Service Commission provides a budget for the Senate for its operation. So when the committees go out, they are already catered for. So what is this oversight fund supposed to do? We don't see its necessity anywhere. On the delimitation of electoral units, we have proposed amendment of Article 6 and 89. Let me start with Article 6. Our counties are based on the districts as they were established by 1992, and most of them were set up by the colonial government. The Moi and Kenyatta regime, the first Kenyatta, only established 6 more districts. So the colonialists did not use the right, they didn't have any formula. They just looked at ethnicities and declared these to be counties. So we have such a disparity in terms of the distribution of the counties. And this has an effect in decisions in the Senate, where representation and some decisions are based on the counties, the delegations, etc. That is why we are calling for an establishment of a system of identifying the limitation of counties. With regard to Article 89, we have had a lot of problems, whether we are to go population only or we are to include what people call the land sizes. We are calling for a more pragmatic approach where we don't leave anybody behind, but we take everybody on board. But we have to do it in such a way such that we don't have complaints where people say that this member of parliament is only representing 20,000 voters or people, whereas this other one is representing over 500,000 people. So we are asking that Article 89 should be amended so that we can have a more justifiable process of delimiting our electoral units, and especially the constituencies. Thank you.
Okay. There was an issue about the 2/3 gender rule. What we meant by reducing the size of parliament is, if you look at the articles, they state that if the 2 gender thirds rule has not been actualized, more people should be brought on board so as to balance. So our proposal is that that will be very unfair to the people because it will increase the number. So when we say reducing the size, that is the number we are referring to. It should not be cured by including more people so as to balance. The constitution should be very clear on which mechanism should be used to balance the 2/3 gender rule during the elections and not after.
And what about the one on housing?
On the one on housing, our major problem is most of the time what the government has tried to do before has not actually been actualized. Because of various issues, we have allegations of corruption coming in, we have delayed processes. Sometimes we're not so sure about the processes that come in with procurement and all that. And therefore, we believe that this is not the best way to go right now, because the people are not ready, they are struggling, and the extra 1.5 is an extra burden on them that they're not able to bear right now. If better processes will be put in place in future, then it can be looked into.
Okay.
I think that, do you have anything else?
Okay,
We really must
thank you very
you.
much. Yeah.
I was going to thank you on behalf of Cicely, but we ended up doing it, both of us, and on behalf of the committee, for very clear thinking. So we really realized it must have been read in the name of the chairperson, Owa, right?
Yes.
So, and we take the work of this conference very seriously, Catholic bishops. So we would have felt less than equal to the task if you didn't make this presentation. Although I was going to ask you a small thing like corruption and stealing of drugs. I thought it's one and the same thing. And I think that you have gone to the core of